All right. Does everyone see the stream? All right. How's the Twitch stream? Cool. All right. Well, usually take about 5 minutes to wait for people. So in a few more minutes, we'll get started. Yeah, I just heard myself. What is that deep growl? I was like, Mason, what does your shirt say? Yeah. Oh, it looked like Avengers, kind of. It was just, yeah. It's not like the movie logo. Classic logo. All right, well, I think we can go ahead and get started. Hello. Welcome to the second general meeting of the year. Um, Before we get started, we got a few announcements. So this Saturday is GDC squared, I guess. Since we're not actually in the GDC, usually it's a game developer conference in the Gatesdale complex, but this year, of course, it's on Zoom. Um, and so GDC is a great event. It's kind of like our general meetings, but much longer. It'll be the whole day from about noon to like 6 p.m. Um, or you can hear about stuff from voice acting to character animation and a lot more. So yeah, hope to see you there. Next up, we got the Blender workshop this this upcoming Monday. So Blender animation taught by Jimmy Liu. I'm sure y'all have seen his stuff in the Show Your Work channel. He made like the Mushroom game, or he's been showing off that game. Yeah, he's awesome. Uh, he's gonna teach you how to animate in Blender. So yeah, pretty cool, pretty cool. We got the movie art social take two because last week it kind of fell through because of all the weather. Um, so next Friday, we're gonna they're gonna be watching a movie. We're gonna be watching a movie with the Animators Club in their Discord, and the event is kind of like draw a scene from the movie while you watch. But if you just want to watch the movie, that's fine too. Um, And I'll just leave it on the screen for a sec if you want to scan that Discord invite to join the server. Yeah. And the invite, I think, is also posted in the one of our announcement channels. Yeah. Okay. I think that's enough time. And lastly, finally, the long-awaited EGaDS t-shirts are here. If you're in Austin and you're available either Wednesday or Friday from 5 to 7 p.m., you can come to the GDC. It's open right now, but if it's not open, we'll let you in, so don't worry. Just going to be in the main atrium area. We'll just be chilling out with the shirts. Come by and get one. Come by and get your shirt. Let's see. Yes, the t-shirts. Okay. Okay. Woo. Okay, and yeah, and if you're in Austin but these times don't work for you, just let us know and we can work something out. And yeah, just the links, you know the drill. If you're not in EGaDS yet, please join. We have a lot of shirts. We over ordered, so we still have a shirt for you, probably. Just sign up with Elena, sorry. $10 Venmo there, yeah, yada yada. And this is the full design. I don't think we've really showed that off that much, but we got the front and the back. So yeah, I really like the back. I really like how it turned out. But we haven't shown it off, so yeah, that's something to be excited about. Related orgs, yeah, you've seen them in the other announcements channel. And thanks to our sponsor. Thank you very much, Zynga. Questions, comments, concerns. Let's see. How are you doing? I'm doing great. Thank you, Ollie. Okay. All right. Well, without further ado, we have our speaker tonight, Trevor Whitaker Black. And he's an Austin-based composer, and he's worked in films and games. And I thought this was really cool. His work is set to appear in an upcoming DreamWorks project. Pretty cool. All right, so Trevor, what you got? Do you have some slides we need to share?
Am I allowed to do that? I spent a little bit of time today making slides.
Yeah, we can show your slides.
There are some visual jokes that are like a critical part, so.
All right, well.
I honestly, I don't have to, but if it's easy enough, I have them.
Yeah, yeah, make co-host. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna stop my share.
Sweet. Okay, I am co-host. I am EGaDS now.
Okay.
It's
wait,
super awesome.
I think I have to pin you.
Oh, okay, we can do that too.
So that I think once you stream, it'll be pinned though.
Okay, Mason's got the tech figured out.
There we go. Okay.
It's super awesome to be here. I ran into, I think it was Ashley in one of the Discords that we're both in, and we got to chatting, and then I ended up getting the cool opportunity to speak to you guys. I'm super glad to be here. I hope everybody is like warm and can drink their tap water now. Last week was really insane. We made it over here. I hope none of you are currently like popsicles. Go outside. It's nice out now. I'm a game audio person. I've been doing some game audio, some film audio for a little while. I would love to hear like if anybody else in here is musicians, go ahead and like type that in the chat. I would love to find out like what you do if you're not a musician, because I want to like help you to understand the world of music as it relates to games and films a little bit better. With all of that said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with the awesome power that Grant has trusted me with. I promise that you will regret it, Grant. Let's see if I can get this all nice and neat. Ooh, there we go. All right, I do want to pause on this first slide for like a half a second. Okay, the title of this talk is I'm going to solve all of your problems, and today is Tuesday. There is a reason that this is the title and not something else, but we will talk about that in just a moment. Okay, so a little bit more about me. This is my first time talking at EGaDS, so I thought I might introduce myself a little bit. I studied music technology and composition when I was in college. I graduated in 2013, which makes me old, question mark. My focus was in classical guitar, but I was lucky enough that my school offered a dual track with like an instrument and a composition and technology focus. When I left there, I was super, super lucky to get an opportunity to go be the guy that brings people coffee at Hans Zimmer Studios for a couple of weeks. And I was even more lucky that that graduated from like learning Hans Zimmer's smoothie recipe to like getting to be in the room on some projects, and eventually even getting to like directly handle the audio that went into a couple of movies. Some of them you may have seen: Captain America, Winter Soldier, Kingsman, The Secret Service, and Into the Woods were probably like the ones that people would recognize. I also worked on a film called Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. Please tell me if you've seen that movie. I would be so pumped. And I will tell you where in that movie you can find the sound of Kanye screaming that I hid in the soundtrack. I went independent a couple years after that, and since then I've done a little work for DreamWorks, for Tiny Build, for Paramount, and for Somatone Interactive, which is a game audio company. I use the following things to help me out if you want some recommendations. Also, if you know anybody who works at these companies that wants to like endorse people or whatever. I love Mac Minis. I love Cubase. I use a UAD Apollo and some KRK monitors to listen to all my stuff. The picture you're seeing on the screen is a MIDI controller that just came out, and it's actually designed for people who use Photoshop, Blender, a lot of video editing software, but they made a release for people who do music production. And I love this controller, and if you want to burn like maybe a little bit too much money, it's amazing, and I really, really recommend it. I also use a lot of Spitfire audio technology. Neural DSP is the amp modelers that I use. Sound Toys makes incredible weird noise machines, and then I back up everything on LaCie hard drives. I don't know if you guys are looking for recommendations, but there you go. Okay, one more thing about me. I am not Joel Osteen. I know I look exactly like Joel Osteen, but that is not me. Here is why I'm saying this. This slide is a little bit random out of context. When I was in college, I used to work for the church that I grew up going to. Holler to anybody who's church people. One of the things that we did at my church, maybe you did at yours, was go to these like big conferences where they would like tell you how to do church better, basically. And one of the things that they would always do at these conferences is be like, hey, everybody, here's how you handle 10,000 people on a Sunday. Or like, here's this really creative thing that we do when we have 600 kids at our youth group or whatever. And it drove me insane because whenever I went to one of these talks, they were like solving problems that I didn't need to solve. Like my church was like 1,000 people maybe. The youth group was like 50 kids on a crazy Sunday. So now that I have the opportunity to like do some sort of talk of my own and hang out with you guys, I want to like actually impart things that you can use today and aren't like solving problems that maybe you would run into in your career like years down the line. We can talk about that too, but I really wanted to focus on things that would like be immediately applicable to people who are making music like right now. So with that said, here's amazing things that you can get for free. This is a list of things that you can go download right now if you want them. I'm also gonna like just tweet out a link to every single one of these things. If you are making music and you need some things that sound good, all of these things are free. BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover is an incredible full orchestra that you can download if you just go to their website and then fill out a questionnaire and wait 2 weeks. You can get it sooner than 2 weeks if you want to pay $50, but if you want it for free, you can just go to their website and fill this thing out. The same group that makes the Discover Orchestra makes labs. They're called Spitfire. Spitfire Labs are just like an incredible collection of free instruments. The only thing you need to download them is like their software, and you can just download it right away, get it for free. Jake, ever noticed that Trevor Whitaker Black and Joel Osteen have never been in the same room at the same time? It's true. We are always in different rooms. Piano Book is also something that's like an offshoot of Spitfire. I think one of the founders made this thing, and this is like, it's not a social network, but it's a platform for people to share instruments with each other. So if you make a really cool sample library or instrument, you can go like download it from here or share it with other people here, and people like comment on things and update things, and they are all super free. This last poster on the right here is for a specific instrument by 8DO, but they have a whole section of free stuff. Post-apocalyptic guitar used to be like $150, and now they're just like giving it away, which is super awesome of them. So thanks, guys. Other things that you can do right now to like not pay for anything is you can like get a music education on YouTube for free. If you haven't heard of all of these channels, please go check them out and subscribe to them like immediately. 8-Bit Music Theory is an incredible channel if you just want to like hear more about how people made music in games. If you're like a dev, this would really help you learn a little bit more about how to talk to the composers that you might add to your team. They go in depth on the decisions that composers make on specific soundtracks. They've done Metroid. They had Austin Wintory as a guest on, I think it was their episode about Abzu. It might have been The Pathless. I don't remember which one it was, but they go in depth on a ton of games, Persona 5, Final Fantasy, a whole bunch of stuff. You learn a lot as a dev or as a musician if you go there. Bad Snacks, super great producer. She's done some interviews where she talks about her process and just like how to make incredible music with like minimal access to gear. Although she has a lot of gear now. Andrew Huang is like the gear king. He talks about just being creative, being a composer, being someone who's interested in sound and tips and tricks for that. And then the last one, Rick Biatto, I'm convinced if you watch all 800 of his videos, you just have a music degree. So if you want to just get a music degree on YouTube, go watch all of Rick Biatto's music. He knows so much about the world of music and technology and how they interact. He's incredible. Just watch his whole channel and then you have a music degree. He talks a lot about gear, and I appreciate when he does, because I use a lot of it. And one of the things that I was missing a lot of when I was like college age making music was how important automation data is. So I made a whole slide for this. please use MIDI CC data. That's all. Like, I didn't know this for several years. When I learned it, it completely changed how everything that I made sounds. This is like automating different knobs and faders inside of your DAW if you don't know what we're talking about here. It's just making sounds change over time. If you play the same sound back over and over and over again, you're gonna notice that it's, you know, somebody who just hit a C on a piano one time and played it back 10 times in a row. But if you use some automation data, you can get these sample libraries like the ones we were talking about earlier to sound closer and closer and closer to a real orchestra. So those are my free things, my free tips. I wanted to talk a little bit about creativity, just because that I felt like would be applicable to everybody here. And my first tip for that is steal everything that you see. No composer, no dev is like 100% original. You know why his hand is in his jacket here? This is Mozart. It's because he's like stealing from somebody else and he hid it in his jacket. Like every creative person, from the greats to the people who you just have never heard of, no one is 100% original. So whenever you see a cool idea, just take it. You'll never be able to recreate it exactly. And the fact that it, whatever it is, goes through your head and comes out the other side mashed together with all of the other things that you like means that you should never hesitate to just try to copy someone. You'll learn how they did what they did, and or you will come up with something new and original. Oh, my chat is like always hidden in a weird place. Oh, Adam Neely. Okay, somebody mentioned Adam Neely. Adam Neely is fantastic, and I would definitely recommend him. I think of him more as like a think piece type of person, like somebody who writes interesting articles rather than someone who's doing like direct education. But he's like kind of on that line of like edutainment. Yeah, Adam Neely is fantastic. He's an incredible musician. His YouTube channel is great. You should check it out as well. Okay, so whoever you are, steal things. Make a collage of all the things that you find that you like, turn them into other things. That is how new things get made. So that's one of my tips. Another tip is that ideas can come from anywhere. I don't know if anybody knows So Wiley, but I discovered her because she was a musician. She's written for some podcasts, and she has been remixing bird songs for like 6 months. All of the beats that she's put out recently have all been like a bird that she sampled and then turned into like a really awesome lo-fi or like really nasty hip hop beat. Bird tunes, 100%. Yes. I will also put a link to her profile. You should absolutely go check this stuff out. It was just a big reminder to me that if you are doing something creative, your ideas can come from absolutely anywhere. Whether it's bird music or like you're incorporating a game mechanic from Candyland into your dungeon crawler. Like just ideas can come from anywhere, and steal them from anywhere. A couple of other big tips. These I have to explain a little bit, so let's dive in here. Have a pond to let ideas happen. And what I mean by that is have somewhere that you can go and sit and be quiet and just let things come to the surface. David Lynch talks about how important it is to fish for ideas, and that you should spend time like out on your pond fishing in the place that you like for ideas. So have a notebook where you can just like sit and doodle mindlessly if you're an artist. Have a guitar nearby or your phone to record things if you're a musician, and just start talking and something interesting might happen. And if you spend long enough there, you usually catch some sort of fish that's worth keeping. Once you have a fish, have a place that you can record your ideas quickly. So This, does anybody know who this is on like the right here, or am I like way old on this reference? This is Timbaland. Hopefully people still have heard of Timbaland. Amazing producer, has a million Grammys. He produced Pony for Genuine. He's produced stuff for Jay-Z, Beyonce. Like pick a person pre SoundCloud rap that has a Grammy, and he was probably involved. One of the things that he talked about in his masterclass is how he will make beats just with his mouth. Like when Timbaland makes a beat, he goes into the studio, stands in front of a microphone, and makes noises with his mouth, literally like whatever, with his face. And he has producers there that record it, and he just tells them over the microphone, like, okay, take that and loop it for a bar. Okay, now I'm gonna beatbox, and then he beatboxes. And he does it all so fast because he has a way to get the ideas out of his head and onto something quickly. So whether it's like a crappy napkin that you draw on with a Sharpie, or your voice recorder on your phone, or whatever place you have to just like make sure that the fish that you caught in your pond doesn't float away. Like don't let it disappear. And then lastly, I meant to type place here for number 3 and it came out palace. And I just left it because I kind of think that this is good advice. Like have a place or a palace that you can flesh out your ideas and do the like deep work. And I feel like it should feel like somewhere that you're excited to be in. Like the pond should be somewhere that you feel relaxed. The place to record your ideas should be somewhere that you just always have access to, and the palace should be somewhere that you're like excited to sit and do things. So my office has some of the projects that I've worked on like hanging on the wall, and like I have a couple instruments and like lots of paper and things to just like hang out. I feel like it looks halfway decent in here. I like sitting in this room, and I feel like I can like flesh out my ideas. So have all the tools around you and enjoy spending time there, whatever creative thing that you're doing. Speaking of which, I would love to like actually dig into some of the little tips that I gave here and show you guys a little bit of my process. That is going to rely on me coming into this Zoom from this computer. So Grant, is it okay if I try that real quick? I think you're muted.
Yeah, sure. I don't know how that's gonna work. Like I don't know if you'll probably be disconnected for a couple minutes, but if you have it ready to go, that's fine.
So I don't have to leave from where I'm talking to you right now.
Oh, okay.
I can just join from this computer if that's okay. So it would be like another profile that you would need to give share permission to.
Okay, different profile. Yeah, we could try that.
Let me just pull up that link that Ashley sent me in Discord. I have to update Zoom. Bogus. Hopefully this will take like 30 seconds. And while it's doing that, I'll kind of preface like what I want to show you guys. So someone that I've worked with before was telling me about an idea they had for a game and that they had like started developing. I think I can talk about this because it's not even been announced, and what I'm about to show you probably won't end up in like the final version. But we were talking about it, and I was like, I love this idea. I love like the world that this music could exist in, and I'm going to start like playing around with these ideas. So I kind of wanted to show you guys where I went from like an idea to recording it somewhere to like fleshing it out. So that's what we're going to do if Zoom installs on this machine. I tested it out earlier today, but apparently they put out a Zoom update in the middle of the day. Join a meeting. Meeting ID. Can I just pull this out of here? Oh, it looks like because I don't actually have a profile on this computer, it's not going to let me in. That is a bummer. Let me test just the really janky sound from speakers to the microphone on this computer, and we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Is any of that coming through?
Only like the bottom of the bass.
Okay, it's only bass right now.
Oh, okay.
Are you getting like a ticking thing right now? Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty quiet though.
Okay. It doesn't need to be both at once. We could give that a try. Okay, let's do that. Let's try that. All right. I will
Oh,
be
it
back.
says you can, if you log into it on your other computer, you don't actually, I don't think you have to log out.
Let's give it a try. Can we take like a minute-long intermission while I see if I can get my passwords entered and not have that be on screen? Okay.
Oh gosh. Oh geez. You're not a host. Wait, are you a host? Wait. All right. Whoa. Mason, we should pin you. Nah, buddy, you're already pinned. It's fine. Hey, Mason. Fist bump. No. You're to my right. Wait, am I? Oh, you're streaming. Wait, but I'm pinned. Okay. Oh, okay. Three, two, one. What's ah? The chat wants to know um what food Mickey is holding in his profile picture. What a question. (2019) Thanksgiving. Man, back when things were normal and we could have Thanksgiving.
Let's give this a try.
He's back.
All right, are we good? Let me see.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can share audio from this machine.
Okay.
Ooh, host
You're
is
still here on your other account.
Yeah, that's fine. I can leave that computer on for when we do like a Q&A later, and then we
Mhm.
come back over here. I do not have a camera on this machine.
Oh, okay. Can you share your screen?
Not currently, though.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Now?
Is that your actual host or your house, Mason?
He says as his arm phases in and out of existence. Yeah, totally a legitimate background. All right.
All right, let's give this a try. All right. Test number 1. If I hit play, does it come through clearer than it did when I was janking it across the room?
No.
Hearing nothing?
So what you need to do is share application, and I believe there's a checkbox that says share audio.
Select the microphone. Let's see. We still got my voice here. Screen. Share sound.
That sounds like there was something there.
Very clicky guitar coming through.
Yeah.
All right. I'm really sorry. I tested this earlier today and everything worked great. And then I think Zoom had to update and now it's not working.
Oh, jeez. This is what we got to use every day for school.
And I'm normally running things through like Lander sessions where you can like just set a plugin as your output. Let's see. Audio settings. I'm gonna try it one more time, and then if not, we can move on to some Q&A stuff.
Is it playing sound? Because I saw there was like sound playing on the bottom for the first second. Hmm. Oh, turn off your speakers.
They are off.
Whenever you talk, yeah, I hear the audio.
Right, talk, you hear the audio.
Well, no, I don't know. I think it's a weird like. I hear it now. I think I do. I think we're just hearing it from your speakers.
My speakers are not on currently. Are you getting guitar?
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, I have the original sound setting on, which is like it just lets everything through the microphone rather than like that's what I think. We can give it a try. I'll talk through this and maybe it will be cooperative. So the idea for this game started with just like trying to make things as intense as possible. And I was like, I don't know, what do I want to do to like create a sound world that's like just like really aggressive. They had referenced a piece I wrote for Kill It With Fire that was like the Arachnif Gauntlet thing with the 8-string guitar and just like really really in your face. And so I was like, okay, well let's do something kind of like just evoking that. And I was having a hard time getting started, so I was trying to figure out, what do I want to do? Do I want to like mess around on the guitar? No ideas are coming there. Do I want to start with synths? I'm not really happy with any of that. And what I ended up doing is this game is swear word adjacent. I don't know if we can keep the stream family friendly, but I started typing swear words into my keyboard and recording the sound of different swear words, just the sound of the keys clicking. Like there's no words in this recording, but this is how this idea started. That's just my microphone pointed at my keyboard, typing a word that I'll let you all guess in the chat.
Guys, don't guess it in the chat.
So that's where I started. I was like in a notepad, typing swear words into a notepad. And from there, I just took that rhythm, synced it to a click, and tried to use that as a jumping off point for a song. And pretty quickly, I stuck that same rhythm on a synth, which is hopefully what you heard at the beginning. And that was my jumping off point for the song. Pretty soon, I didn't hate everything that I wrote on the guitar. Nope. I got this little guitar riff going. And it's all following this word that I won't say that I typed on my keyboard.
Is that beeping the metronome?
That is a metronome.
Oh, okay.
I can shut that off. Ashley is right. It is but over and over again. So that was sort of like the birth of this, the beginnings of this track. And I wanted to do a little more. I wanted to grow it more. I wanted to like reference some things that people would have some familiarity with. So I went back and I watched Mick Gordon's talk at GDC in like 2017, right after he had written for Doom, because he was talking about all the stuff that he did to create the sounds of that soundtrack. And I wrote everything down and ended up trying to build the same rig that he has. If any of you have seen that talk, you know that he's like running distortion arrays of like 4 guitar pedals in a row, paralleled like 4 times. I don't own that many guitar pedals, so I had to like kind of do it all inside the computer. But I ended up recreating that array that he had, and it's may end up living in some form in this soundtrack that we're working on now. And I can just say I stole that from a talk that I saw. But the final product is not going to be like just utterly ripping off Doom, hopefully. But it got me from like a little bit of the beginnings of ideas to like a more interesting place. And it may not end here, but the next step was just being like, who do I like? They sound cool. Let me try and recreate that. And in the end, it won't be exactly the same because Mick is Mick and I'm me. So this was the result of what I've sent through like my fake Doom array. There's like a lot of bass there. Hopefully some of it's coming through. I can turn off the filters. Yeah, so that's it without the filters. This sounds a little bit more like Doom, but I wanted to make it my own thing. And that's where this whole thing went. It came from like, what's a dumb place I can get an idea? I'll type a bunch of swear words on my keyboard through, let me go somewhere where I can record it. Okay. Let me sit somewhere that I feel comfortable and excited to like do work. And this is where we ended up. So I'll play the whole thing through one time. Hopefully it will continue to sound all right over the stream. And then I would love to like know what questions folks have and how I can like tell you what other free stuff you can get or give you ideas or answer any random questions that you might have. So here we go. And that's what I started doing when I got my power back at my house.
That sounds awesome.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Let me bop back over to my other computer. And then I would love to answer questions or just hang out with you guys and chat.
Mute that mic and make sure I don't have two microphones running in the same room.
Oh, hey, it's you.
Oh, hey, it's me. There we go.
Nice.
There's my beautiful face. I don't want to keep that. There we go. Still getting my echo from my headphones back there. Yes, please ask me any questions related to anything that I just said, unrelated to anything that I just said. I would love to just like help you guys out, give back, bounce around ideas, have interesting conversations. Thank you, DeLong. Mickey, appreciate that. If people feel like comfortable turning their cameras on and like just having a conversation, I would love to do that. If not, feel free to type anything that you're curious about in the chat from like a development perspective, from a musician perspective.
Yeah, if y'all want to unmute to ask questions, that's totally fine.
I have a quick question.
Please.
You said that you study guitar in school, right? Or classical guitar?
Yeah.
How do you go about like noodling and such and coming up with ideas on guitar? Because I'm kind of a newbie at guitar currently.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the thing that I ended up doing here is something that I plan on using a lot more often, which is just taking a sound from somewhere else and trying to like make an impression of that sound with my instrument. On the guitar, I remember there was like a Guitar World magazine video like way back in the day where somebody took the rhythm from I don't know, some song. Maybe it was "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and they're like, "I'm gonna steal that rhythm and just put other chords with that same rhythm, and maybe I'll slow it down." And like that was how they came up with the idea for a new song. They just like took that from somewhere and were like, "How can I take this clever little thing and rearrange it some other way?" Another thing that I would do really often is just like learn to play a song. Excuse me. I still am way into Coheed and Cambria, and their music is just like kind of all up and down the neck. There's lots of individual notes and not a lot of just like strumming chords. So I'd learn a song of theirs, figure out where every note in the song is on the guitar, and just put them in a different order as I saw fit. That was like one of the first ways that I started writing music, was just to be like, well, all of these notes work together. I know that because they sound awesome in another song. I'm just going to take them apart and put them back together however I want.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. I used to write in chunks a lot, where I would be like, what are the first 4 seconds of my song sound like? Let me get those sounding exactly how I want, and then move on to the next thing. And that can kind of work, especially if you're writing really sequential game music, where you want it to sound like this, and then something happens and you want it to switch to this, and then you want it to switch to something else. That can work pretty well. What I did recently, though, just kind of in my like quarantine sketching and learning and having fun, was to try and write something on one instrument from the beginning to the end. And I ended up being really, really happy with that. So that's something else that I want to do more of, is just like, where does this one sound want to go for a minute, 2 minutes, however long? And it ended up being something that I think works a lot better for like the theme for your game, or like a menu thing, or like, you know, the title crawl for your movie. Because when you're forced to take one instrument all the way from the beginning to the end, it's a lot more memorable. Whereas when you're working in like a chunk, it tends to serve like a situational function. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Um, I actually have a question.
please.
So I guess a lot of we've had like people who have worked in sound in video games before, uh, and I think they've said like um, being a composer is great, but like sound design is really where like you're where the basically they just said that's where most of your money is. Um, what is your experience with like sound design, if you have any?
Yeah, I think that's probably good advice. I might be one of the like kind of bullheaded people that wants to mostly write music and like kind of insists on doing that for a project that I'm on. Um, if you are a composer or a musician of any kind already, you have some great inroads into sound design as well. And if you're interested at all in that, I would definitely suggest having both in your tool set. Um, as someone who kind of moved from film to music as a very, or I'm sorry, from film to games as a like a very rough overview of what my career has done so far, I find that like in film, it's very good to be able to like just write music, do it very well, either be excellent at copying styles or have your own very distinct style. Whereas like in the game world, what I heard someone say once has turned out to be very true, which is if all you can do is put a track into the Dropbox, then you're a pretty replaceable person on that team. So if you can add recording voice actors or doing voice to that list, if you can add sound design, Foley, audio implementation to your resume, that makes you um, an easier team member to have. Like especially with games where a lot of a lot of developers tend to have this mindset where they're like, my game is 90% done. Let me get a composer involved. um, so yeah, the more things you can add to your resume, the better. I would say like have a thing that you're known for maybe, and have a lot of things that you're familiar with. That's like one of the things that I did when I went independent, was starting learning more about like implementation. Um, if you haven't watched the Udemy course on Fmod yet, it's like, I mean, Udemy is Udemy, but that's how I learned to use it, was from Udemy. Like they didn't teach that in my program at my school. So if you guys are learning like Wise or Fmod right now, you've already got like a leg up on me. So excellent. Great question. I would definitely recommend adding as many things as you are interested into the mix, but like don't lose sight of the one thing that like kind of brought you into wanting to do this. If it was, I mean, if you're starting out as a sound designer and you're like, oh, I want to learn guitar, like, amazing, do it. Just have something that like gets you excited rather than like spreading yourself too thin.
That's good advice.
Cool. Definitely, yeah, that's a great question. It's something that I think about all the time. Is like, how many skill sets do I want to try to add to what I can do versus like stick to a track and get as far as I can and be the best that I can in that kind of lane. And I think that from what I've seen so far, I can't claim to be a huge expert, but the game world appreciates a little bit more of a jack of all trades than the film world does. Yeah, that's dude, I've been wanting to talk more about this and like honestly get people's input too. Because as someone who's obsessed with music and like making music for the thing that you're creating that, you know, couldn't come from anywhere else and doesn't work for any other project except for yours, I want to be involved from like in your project from the week after you have the idea for the project. Yeah. Um, I find that uh, in film, that status is kind of reserved for people at like the tip top, where Christopher Nolan would call up Zimmer and be like, "I have this idea for a movie. I need you to start sketching things. Yeah, yeah. Here's like my first draft of the script. Can you make some noises so that I can listen to them while I'm editing or whatever?" And that's super cool. And the soundtracks that start that way tend to blend with the end product so much better than those that get like slapped on at the last minute. Um, so if you can make a case for yourself to a developer, to a team member, or whatever, that like, listen, I know you're probably not thinking about this yet, but I should be involved now. I think that you and them and your audience will be happier with the end result. So far, what I've seen of that case is trying to get into like the mood boards of the people who are making the thing. So if your team member or whoever you're working with has I mean, they're probably like pulling art from things they like. Oh, I saw this cool thing on Twitter and I like saved it to my saved tweets or on Instagram or whatever. And then like hopefully they're keeping all of those things somewhere. Make the case to them that you should be involved in doing that with music, or you want to help them not just like write the music, but figure out what works for their ideas. Clip off little sections of songs and like get them in there. Talk about what type of instruments make sense for this project, or what gets you excited about it. And I hope that this becomes more and more of a thing that like people who are working on a game think like, ooh, I'm building this world. As soon as I start to think about what it looks like beyond the like very raw engine, you know, early stuff, I should also be thinking about the way it sounds and the music that's gonna like carry people through that. Please tell me if that sounds insane, but I want that to be the way it works. And yeah, yeah. Some like one of the projects that I was on, they had a real vision for the music from the beginning, and I didn't need a lot of lead time to figure out, what they're looking for, how to make them happy, and deliver something good in the end. Um, so it can totally happen that way, but I have so much more fun when I get to, like, give me the stuff. Let me see it. Um, yeah, I would love if that was more common practice, and I hope for like people here that want to do audio music for games, that you can, like, dig into those teams as early as possible. It's to your advantage that way too, because I spent a portion of my career just like following people on the TIG source forums back in the day. I think those are still a thing. And like messaging people like, your game looks cool. I make good music. Let's talk about it. And they were like, yeah, sure. After I talk about the 10 other people that asked me that already. So it's to the project's benefit for you to get involved early, and it's for to your career's benefit for you to like get involved early. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, yeah. I have not found it to be a problem in the games that I've worked on so far. I think it probably is, but I haven't seen as many projects, in part because games just take longer maybe than films do, depending on how long the game is. But like, I haven't seen it as much in games. I think it's probably a thing, but the real reason it's a huge thing in film is because of the very set way that movies go from shooting through editing and having music written to like the last parts of post production. And I mean, are you thinking of that video that Every Frame a Painting made about temp music specifically? Yeah. So that's part of that issue is that directors will start editing their movie, and because you can just do everything in a non-linear way and you don't have to like commit to the first reel of your movie before you move on to the second, you can just pull things here and there and figure out where they work, and everybody is working at the same time and trying to get the most up-to-date version of the thing. And what usually happens is they just slide a temp track in so that they can edit it to a soundtrack. And I think that's a good idea to like start with. And what I wish people would do is like switch that track out every week on a project. Because if you don't, what happens is you just like the editors start editing to that music without realizing it. The director hears it over and over and over and over again, and it just glues itself to the project. Um, Sometimes it's a big problem. It is sort of the reason that I was like, films are cool. I'm having fun, but like what really made me want to write music was Humble Bundle 2 and hearing the soundtrack to Bastion. Uh, and I think you can't take game soundtracks and pull it off one game and stick it on another game and have no problems the same way you can with a lot of films. And honestly, I don't like, I wouldn't blame anybody for that. it's nobody's fault. It's just the fact that movies have to happen so quickly and on such a huge scale that they've standardized this method of getting things done and getting the music done very quickly, so that that's just the way it happens. Things get glued together, and in order to deliver your movie by this summer or whenever it's supposed to come out, you got to use that process that works fast. And it's part of the reason that I'm like, get your composers involved as soon as you can, because if you can afford to have a budget for like music and snippets and things early on, it's gonna result in something a lot better than if you're just like, oh, quickly, we need something that sounds like Star Wars. How much do you charge a minute? I'm like, we've never talked before. What? But yeah, it's not to say that, like, again, I don't blame anybody for any of that. It's my dream that everyone would be like, yes, composers, come play with us, make cool noises, let's talk about all this. Uh, so again, nobody's fault, but wouldn't it be cool if? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that kind of reminds me of sorry, what you said there kind of got me thinking of another question, which is, how much should you charge a minute if you're coming right out of college? And maybe you have like a couple projects that you did, um, that you can show, um,
Like price points?
yeah, because I've had advice in the past that's you should charge at least $300 a minute, just like no matter what. It's kind of like I don't know. That's just what I've heard.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
agree with
sure.
that?
Um, no. Not that it's bad advice. It's just that this is a really difficult question to answer, and no one is happy about that fact. I don't love it. You guys are probably maybe frustrated by that question. Developers don't love not knowing what to expect. Um,
Yeah.
so let me just like shotgun some thoughts, and hopefully it's helpful. Um,
Sure.
One of the first things that my boss said to me when I was asking him this question was like, if you charge them $300 a minute and you give them a minute of music, they'll be like, okay, great. If you charge them $1,000 for a minute of music and hand them the same minute, they'll be convinced that that music is worth $1,000, and they'll probably even like it more because they had to commit more to it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's I've heard of. Yeah, I'm familiar with that mindset, I guess.
Yeah. So I wouldn't recommend pricing your music that way and like thinking, how much do I want this person to like the music, and then upcharging or something. Just
Yeah.
that's something to keep in the back of your head whenever you're giving someone a price. Um, what was my other thought about this? Okay. Uh, Whenever you're a creative person, lending your art, whatever that is, visual, audio, music, voice acting, I'm forgetting stuff, I'm sure. Whenever you're lending that to the people who are publishing the final product, your art is valued by what the end product is worth. If I can I still screen share? This is another thing I'm gonna steal from somebody I watched on YouTube. Okay. If I go like this, that was, how long did that take me to do? 3 seconds? Let me edit it a little bit. 5 seconds? How much is that worth? If I give that to TeePublic, maybe that's worth $500 because they're going to sell 5,000 t-shirts. I don't know. But because this was given to Nike, these two little lines are worth like, what, $6 million? Who knows? I don't want to see the back of my head. So your art is the value of it economically is based on the final product. So keep that in mind as well. Your price will also go up or down depending on questions like, how much music am I actually contributing to the project? Is this a documentary that I have to score 90 minutes from front to back? Is it an action movie where I have to score 45 minutes of a 90-minute film? Or is it an interview where I just have to make a little doodle at the beginning and the end? And that will adjust your price up and down. Also, how big of a thing am I delivering? Is this going to be a ukulele quartet that takes me an afternoon to write and record? Or is it going to be a full orchestra with electronics, guitars? I'm going to hire some percussionists. I'm going to hire somebody to yell in the background like choir style. That's going to make your price go up, right? And because all of these things are constantly going like, oh, the project's bigger, bring the price up. But oh, it's like pretty simple music. Okay, that brings it back down, and yada, yada, yada. What I have done on the past couple of game projects that I've been on is deliver not a bill or an invoice, well, an invoice eventually, but I don't deliver like, I charge $1,000 a minute for this project that you're going to have 12 minutes of my music in. What I will deliver people is like, here are 3 pricing options. Economy, where everything is samples and I keep all the rights and I get 10% of your profits at the end. That's a lot. The basic package, where I am going to record drums and guitars myself, but I'm not going to hire anybody else. I'll get it mixed for the like couple of important tracks that I need mixed, and I only want 2% of your profits at the end. And then like the super deluxe package, where I want 1% of your profits, but I'm going to hire like a chamber orchestra, and I'm going to get it mixed by like a dude I know who's like super great, does a bunch of industry stuff, and that price is going to be higher. And so like, even if that's not the final thing that they choose, it makes them feel like they have options instead of like, oh, this guy charges $300 a minute. Well, he's probably, you know, I only have budget for $200 a minute, and I guess we can't work together. If you give people here are all your options, they can be like, ooh, I can't give you any back end because of my contract, but like I have more budget up front. So like, can we do the one where I can't give you any back end, but I do want to pay you a bunch up front so that you can record the orchestra or whatever. So just like keep the conversation going when somebody asks you that question.
That's a really good point, because like I think that's what most artists in general are afraid of, is that they're going to set their price too high, and then the person's going to come back and say, oh, sorry, I can't spend that much. Bye. So I think that's why a lot of artists like undersell their like, or undercharge on their work a lot, because they don't want to overcharge. So that's really good. I think in general for like doing art of any kind is like have different options that they can choose from. So that kind of tells them that you're flexible in what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, you said it really, really well, Grant. Like, you're afraid that if you're afraid that there's a right answer to that question in their mind, right? Where like, how much do you charge a minute of music? Well, like, did I get it right? But if you can be like, oh, great question. Actually, it's kind of complicated. Here's a menu. What do you think of my menu? And then they can be like, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have that much money right now, but we're getting published by somebody really good. So like, can I pay you this much to start and this much to finish? And can I get these add-ons for my entree or whatever? And then the thing that you're scared of doesn't happen, where the conversation ends because you gave them the wrong answer.
Yeah. Or it ends and you're getting paid minimum wage.
Yeah,
Essentially.
like
Under minimum
if you're an
wage.
artist, your skills are incredible and magic, and it sucks that part of our job is to figure out how much magic costs. But hey, we're in America.
Yep. Well, that was really good. That was a really good answer.
I hope it was helpful. Actually, that took me a little while to figure out, and I found that it works pretty well when you can just be like, "What do you think? What do you think the answer is?"
That's awesome.
And for right out of college, to go back to your very first question, for right out of college, $300 a minute. If you're gonna like really put a lot of work into it, sure, that's a great place to start. Yeah. If you really know what you're doing, you got some cool stuff on your resume. Yeah, like take it up a little bit. Why not? But give them options.
Yeah. Cool. Well, would you be
Well,
willing / allowed to share the Kanye scream?
so if you go to if you go watch Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, I can't. Unfortunately, there's like nothing I can show you on my machine because this was like when I was working in somebody else's office. This is actually kind of like a funny story, so I'll briefly explain that. One of my bosses was like, "Hey, can you make me some new like scare noises? We're working on this horror project. I'm sick of hearing the same bang that every other horror thing has. Go make some weird noises." And I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna base all of these on different phobias. So I'm gonna make one that's based on spiders and like use recordings of spiders, and I'm gonna make one based on the fear of, I think I did like fear of bowel movements or something, and I used like a tuba and the sound of like somebody farting in a toilet, but like pitched it and turned it into like this horrifying noise." And then I think the one with Kanye was the fear of existence. This was back when Kanye first was like, "I am God." And I was like, "Okay, Kanye." And I took that scream that he does, I think it's on Black Skinhead, where he just goes like, "Ha!" And I like stretched it out and pitched it down. And if you watch the scene in that movie, I think where I don't want to spoil it, there's a zombie on a trampoline, maybe worth the price of entry right there. There's like a shock noise that happens there, and I'm pretty sure that's where it is.
Nice.
Yeah, industry secrets right there.
I have a question.
Here.
This is Mickey, by the way.
Hey, Mickey.
What is it like to work under Hans Zimmer?
Yeah, so that's a question that could like warrant another night of talking. But I'll maybe give you some brief thoughts and then tell me if you have any specific questions. But the way his studios work, at least at the time that I was there, was he had sort of like his room. And if you've ever seen the like masterclass trailer, it's that room with the like walls of synths and like leather $1 billion couches and all the cool stuff he has. And that's his room. And then there's a whole bunch of other studios in that building and like the next building. And people rent out those studios. They make these amazing scores. Every once in a while, Hans is like, "Let me get the guy in that room and let me get her over there because she's great at violin. And like, you guys are going to be my team for Spider-Man 37 or whatever's coming out." And then they turn into like a pod for 6 months, and then the score to whatever comes out the other side, which is really cool that it's like collaborative. People are, constantly bouncing ideas off of each other, because what can happen, like kind of what's happening to me right now, is I work from home. I worked from home before the pandemic, and I don't get to like leave my door and go to somebody else's studio and like see what they're working on. And the fact that that is something that you could do at his studios was really cool, because you could be like, oh, what are you guys doing in here? Oh, nice, Interstellar. Hey, you got any ideas? Like, oh yeah, I'm working on Mad Max or whatever. So the collaboration there is really, really cool. But it's also like really, really, really professional in terms of like what you deliver. So the standards there are like super, super, super high. Yeah, it's a really, really high quality environment, both in terms of professionalism and like collaboration.
Yeah, so from my understanding, Hans Zimmer has like a team of 50 to 100 people, and he only like writes riffs, and then he'll ask other people to flash out his ideas, and then there will be MIDI programmer and arranger arrange everything for him. So he doesn't actually write the whole thing.
Yeah, that it's actually pretty rare if you're the composer of like Avengers. It would be pretty rare for you to be the one that like writes every note.
Mhm.
So sometimes what happens is the one composer will like write the suite, like here's every sound that I want for this movie, and then another team of composers will like kind of take that and turn it into the stuff that actually works in the final cut of the film. Sometimes, depending on the project, I think like Trent Reznor does this too, where he just writes sounds and doesn't even like look at the picture, or maybe he does, and then like Atticus Ross or somebody else will turn that into what turns into like the actual soundtrack. But even beyond that, there's collaboration, because like Hans is not the one mixing his soundtracks. He's not the one playing violin 60 times over in Air Studios. He's not the one who is conducting, I don't think. I think he usually hires a conductor. I think he usually hires an orchestrator, like the person who takes his project file and turns that into the sheet music that your orchestra will read. So it's collaboration both on the like immediate surrounding part of the process that Hans is on, like writing the music itself for the film, and then it's also collaboration kind of vertically, where someone is cutting the music to the movie when there's new versions of the movie, all the way through to the end of that process where someone is taking the recordings of the orchestra and mixing them back into what came off of Hans's machine. So yeah, there are probably some projects where Hans is like, I have only a month to do this, so I'm just going to make a bunch of noises and then let somebody else turn that into a soundtrack. And then there's probably other projects where he's gone from like, nobody can touch this except for me, until it's written, and then people can mix it. Probably depends on how much time he has, honestly. If anything ever goes wrong with this caliber of person, it's because they didn't have enough time. If somebody's voice acting is off, if somebody's violin playing isn't good, if somebody's art doesn't perfectly match whatever, 9 times out of 10, it's not because there's anything wrong with that person or their skill. It's just like there wasn't enough time.
Right. Yeah, I was a big Hans Zimmer fan, or I should say I really like his earlier music, because you can tell the actual differences in his earlier music. And I felt like his recent music sounds very Hollywood, sounds very similar. You can't really like differentiate one like score from the other, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, so there's a couple things happening there. One of them is that, to a certain degree, Hans Zimmer doesn't sound like Hollywood. Hollywood sounds like Hans Zimmer.
Right.
So that's part of it, is that everybody's trying to do him. And then another part of it is, I don't know what you mean when you say his earlier music, but there was a point in his like career where the technology started being available to where you could kind of keep an orchestra inside of your computer. And when that technology first started happening, the things that sounded pretty good and worked pretty well were like big hits of percussion, stabby brass, and like string ostinatos. That's John Williams, but whatever. So the technology shaped that sound. And to a certain degree, it's still shaping that sound, and it kind of always will shape that sound because everybody's going to kind of massage the process, use similar tools, and because things happen so fast, it's like there's not as much time as I wish there was for like playing around and sitting in that pond that we talked about earlier. But yeah, you're absolutely right in your in like what you're hearing. There's so many reasons that that's the case, but yeah. What did you mean when you said like his earlier music? You talking like Lion King or?
So I think my favorite score is The Last Samurai, like early 2000s
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer music. And then I felt like after Interstellar, like post 2010, everything sounded like just big and like ambient, but well, sometimes ambient, like sometimes like very complex electronic music mixed with like big orchestra, and it's like that's cool. But like after I leave the cinema, I was like, okay, I guess that's Hans Zimmer.
Yeah. Yeah, he's also like excels at just creating the sort of like intensity that drives you through a movie. I think part of that was like how much he collaborated with Nolan, and Nolan really wants to just like take you on a super cool looking loud ride that just you're like, oh whoa. Yeah, so it's all of these things that are like at the top of their game influencing each other. Like people want to sound like Hans. Hans makes a string pack that you can sound exactly like him. People
Right.
start using that. And he has it and he used it before it was released to the public, and like it's cool that you can make music happen that quickly, but when you find something that works, it works for like a couple projects and maybe they sound similar. It would be super cool if they could like build a whole library of instruments every project, but I don't think anybody has that kind of time.
Yeah, when I first started using action string and action drums from Contact, I was like very excited and very happy with like the sound. But then I quickly realized, okay, it sounds kind of cliche.
Yeah. And that was part of the reason that my boss was like, "Hey, I'm tired of hearing all of these same exact booms. Can you go make some other weird stuff?" So yeah, you guys like again, you want to add some things to your skill set, like make some weird noises, make some things that people have never heard come from anyone except for you.
Right.
Yeah.
So my next question is, what made you switch from film to game? I feel
Yeah.
like I feel like you didn't mention that, and then I guess you can also mention like one specific games that kind of like shapes your understanding about game music and game sound design. Like for me, it will be Hellblade.
Okay. Yeah. So I still, to be clear, I still do some film stuff. Like I've not given that up completely. In part because like it is fun, but like what really makes me excited is working in games. And to answer, I think both of your questions with one example, it really was like Bastion from Humble Bundle 2 that made me like want to make these worlds with music, to make something that could only exist in Bastion, because you can't take the Bastion soundtrack and put it in like Braid or another game that came out in that same Humble Bundle. So that probably really shapes my thinking about game music. I think it just tells the story so well, and it like outlines the setting so well. And it probably kicked off my like personal obsession with like mixing sounds. That's like if I had to put a phrase to what I bring to the table as a composer, it's like I love taking two things that you might not think work together and making them happen. I had to do it recently for a project where it was like I need chill hop bard music
Okay.
and like stick those together. For Kill It With Fire, it was we need like kind of horror music, kind of spy music, and that was a lot of fun. So yeah, the blend of like I guess you would call it trip hop and like Western kind of jangly guitar that was on Bastion would definitely be what I go back to, and I'm like, what started this for me, and what do I love so much how am I going to think about this? Yeah.
Cool. So for composition, have you ever run out of ideas?
Yeah, all the time. All the time.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. I think people are like, I don't know, maybe it was Mad Men or some other TV show that was like, you're only as good as your last idea, um, which is garbage. Like, you're only as good as whatever you can think of to come up with ideas, maybe would be a better way to think about it. That's part of why I wanted to talk about the stuff I talked about earlier. Like, I run out of ideas all the time. You will inevitably run out of ideas no matter who you are. So listen to other people, twist their ideas up and put it through your brain, and find ideas in places that you might not expect to, whether it's um, listening to like the sound of that the garbage truck makes when it like rhythmically lifts up the can and like dumps it in the thing and puts it back down, or just being still and quiet in a place and being bored until something happens. And also, or like sitting with your instrument and making terrible things until something slightly good happens and just
Right.
latching onto that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess going off that, how would you deal with lack of motivation? Because I think for me, I'm actually experiencing a pretty bad burnout in music and sound, and I just don't feel like doing anything. I stop listening to music. I stop even like watching people making music. Just like listening to people, listening to other people's music makes me sick. So yeah, like how would you deal with like a burnout and I guess lack of motivation? Sorry, it's a
I
serious
could
question.
I could
Yeah, no, I
actually
love it. I wanted you guys to grill me because I don't want to be here and just, tell you everything's gonna be great. I mean, it is, things will be great. You'll do awesome stuff, but yeah, the hard questions are the ones that, maybe will actually make a difference for y'all. That's a great one. How do I deal with lack of motivation? I find that it's really hard for me to write music for myself, like just because I want to. And I do want to, and I have fun writing music, but getting all the way through the process of like idea, sketching, finishing, delivering, or sharing it in some way, like rarely happens for me outside of um, working on a project. So
Right.
sometimes you have to steal motivation from other people. If
I'm
that
Right.
makes
exactly the same way. Like I don't think I've ever like I've tried writing for myself, but like I've never like done anything with it. It's like it's more about like it's really nice to like look for like game projects that people need music for. That's what I was doing for a while. When I first joined EGaDS. Right now I'm kind of in like more of a long-term project, and so that's where most of my music like work goes into right now. But like um another thing is like having multiple like having things outside of music that you like doing has also helped me. Like I really like to program, so if I get tired of music, then I just do programming. Um,
Yeah, that's good advice, Grant. Yeah, Mickey, like spending time away from it, spending time for me, spending time on something that nobody expects me to be good at is really
Mhm.
helpful. I used to paint a lot more than I do. I don't know why I stopped, honestly. And it was so much fun because I was bad at it. And I had no pressure to make it good. Nobody's expecting me to be a good painter. And it was just like something I could do with my hands. I was kind of proud of it, but like not really. Do I have? Oh yeah, okay. This was like a paint by numbers class, and I was like, I'm just gonna have fun, sunset style, head from Rick and Morty floating in the sky. Um, do something with your hands that's not music if you're feeling burned out. And as much as you can, don't put pressure on yourself to start doing music again and getting it right. Either go like cook something or draw something or ride a bike and put no pressure on yourself away from your instrument, or sit on your instrument and be like, I'm going to be bad on purpose. And that was another way I kind of got around that bend, because it was like, you know your instrument. I see there's a piano back there.
Yeah, I actually sold all my instruments, and only left that piano. Yeah, cool.
Hopefully that helps. It's a tough question, man. Just like keep asking other people too.
I've had a couple times where I just like get the keyboard out and I'm like slamming the keys, playing like random song, like like the Star Spangled Banner or like Jingle Bells, just really like loud. It's like vent art, but like music. If you know what vent art is, like where you just let it out. I don't know. That's another thing I've done in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it felt pretty good.
Yeah, have some way to do that, even if it's not your instrument. Like it could be your instrument, it could be a pencil and paper. Make bad origami, grab a bunch of tinfoil, make a sculpture.
Yeah. And I know that you mentioned a bunch of free plugins, but also I would like to know what you actually use in your daily workflow. Could be paid, could be unpaid, could be free,
Yeah.
could be paid. Yeah.
Of all the free stuff I mentioned, the most useful to me has been Spitfire Labs. They sound great. They're free. They get creative juices flowing for me too. When I'm not using that, if I need orchestra stuff, I have like the Spitfire Orchestra. I love Sound Toys. I mentioned I have a bunch of their stuff, but not all. Decapitator is a plugin that they have. It's just like an amazing distortion plugin.
Right. Alter Boy is pretty good.
I don't have that one yet, but I really want to get it. Yeah, Decapitator's great. Devil Lock is a compressor that they make that just makes things sound really beautiful, like brutal. It was all over the thing I played for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I use Serum when I need electronic stuff sometimes. I also just got Diva, which is another synth plugin that's great for 80s kind of stuff, like 80s synth stuff. I have Addictive Drums 2 for a lot of the drums that I use. I'm trying to think if there's any like secret weapons that I would really, really recommend. Valhalla Reverbs, if you want reverb. They make really good stuff. And honestly, I just camp out on Spitfire's website and wait for things to go on sale a lot. I actually made a New Year's resolution this year, which was like, I'm only going to buy physical instruments and stop buying Spitfire's plugins because it's all just digital. And I have too many things that I can't hold. So all that is to say, their stuff is great. And I think I broke that resolution at like January 15th. But yeah, Spitfire makes really good stuff. I had like a thing I was gonna tweet out with all the free stuff if you guys want it.
That'd be great.
Put that out right now, and then I'll send a link.
I have a question kind of related to that, which is what instrument, what like audio tool do you or synth or whatever do you have that you feel like you got the most bang for your buck out of? Because that's a problem, like, we're college students, we don't have that much money, so we're looking to get the best value for what we can.
Yeah, for sure. I hope I wasn't like insulting anybody by being like, you guys need free stuff because you can't pay for it, but like
no, it's hard. Like there's still people. There's people I talk to who are like, who don't buy FL Studio. Or there's one of my friends I talked to. He's like, he didn't buy FL Studio for like a year, and he just made all of his songs in like one session.
Oh my god. So I have a friend, I think, I can't sell anybody out, but they've worked on like real projects, uh, who just hits demo mode on Reaper every time they open it, and they could pay for it. So
Yeah.
you know, people use free stuff. As far as like investing a little bit of money, if you want orchestra and you have like you're like, I can blow a little under $300. Abbey Road Orchestra is a Spitfire orchestra that's like, it doesn't have individual instruments, but it has sections, and the sections all sound really good. If you are, if you're more of an electronic person, you said like a synth that I feel like I've gotten a lot of.
Or just anything. Like, is there any one thing that you keep coming back to, like, you know, like where you think I got good value for this?
Probably Serum. Um, I did rent to own through Splice, honestly, which I should have put on my list of like, hey, if you don't want to spend a lot of money, do rent to own, because you end up paying like $7 a month, and a year later you just own the synth, which is great. So I did that with Serum, and I've probably used that a ton.
Serum's like $800, right?
Hmm?
How much is Serum?
Oh, I think if you want to buy it outright, it's only like $200. I could look.
Really?
Yeah. Serum is 200 something. I think Massive is 180 something.
Okay.
Serum is. You can buy it from their website for $189. Yeah.
And if you have student discount, you can get Serum for 50% off, I think.
What?
It's even cheaper. Yeah.
It's really solid.
Dude.
It kind of has a reputation as being like the dubstep machine, and it's really good at that, but it's also like pretty intuitive and pretty good at a lot of other things too. And if you have a Splice account, there are a ton of like really good presets on there. So you can like kind of take things apart and put them back together if you really want to get into like the nitty gritty of sound design. If you want to spend a little more money, I think Omnisphere is $500, and it has like a ton of sounds. They sound great. It's a little more in the atmospheric side of like synthesizers and electronic stuff, but I would check that out as well if you're curious. And honestly, like all this stuff probably has like a 2-week trial mode that you can just mess around with too. So always try before you buy.
Do you use any hardware synthesizers?
That was sort of my hope for my resolution this year, that I would stop spending so much money on plugins and like save up and buy a couple of hardware synths. I do not currently. I think that they're probably a really good investment. They sound incredible. It's good to know how to use them. When I get one, it will probably be like a Moog Sub 37 or like a Moog Siren or the Taurus, like one of the ones that's like a small box like this that you just plug MIDI into and get sound out of, and it's got like 10 knobs on it. It sounds amazing, but they're like entry-level models are like $800, so
Right.
yeah, that's probably what I will get when I can actually like grab one of those. In the meantime though, just like part of the reason hardware synths are awesome is one, because they sound really good, and like nothing beats actually generating a sound instead of like digitally generating it inside of a box. But the other reason that they're really great is because you can like touch them and make decisions not just with your like brain and kind of out of real time, if that makes sense, but also with your hands. So like I got this controller so that I could like program it to different things on my synth, So you can simulate that part of it if you have anything tactile. If you have a cheap MIDI keyboard, even with like faders on it, you'll probably end up having things sound a little bit more interesting, maybe a little bit less perfect if you can just like touch them in some way.
Right.
Yeah. But yes, thank you for reminding me that I really want to spend a lot of money on hardware since, and it's
Yeah.
not to do that one day.
I would love to build my own like Euro rack one day, just with all the cables and the different modules. It would sound very cool. So actually, regarding sound design, I have a question. Do you think the being able to synthesize sounds using a synthesizer? Okay, I guess which one is more important? Being able to synthesize sounds from a synthesizer and being able to create sounds by layering different things using Foley.
Which one's more important?
Mm-hmm. Or which one is the core skill for a sound designer? Because I feel like there are two very different spectrums in terms of skills.
Yeah. This is getting a little bit out of my wheelhouse to say like one is more important than the other. But if I had to have an opinion, I think in terms of sound design or like sound effects, I think probably the audio and manipulation route would be more like broadly applicable, because you can always kind of get synth noises and like tweak them. But if you don't know just some interesting tips and tricks and how to treat audio from like a sort of analog or Foley perspective or manipulation perspective, you might get kind of trapped. It also probably depends on like what kind of projects you want to work on. Do you want to work on things that feel like I don't know, Final Fantasy with like a bunch of menus with like interesting, really pleasing blip noises? Well, then maybe you should like invest in that time in synths. Do you want to work on things that are really realistic or feel very tactile? Then you should focus on the audio aspect, the analog aspect. After a while. Sorry, I can't be like more precise with that one.
No, that's okay. That totally makes sense to me. I think it's project dependent. For sci-fi projects, a lot of sounds are, imaginary, so you have to create them using the synthesizer, which makes sense. But for more realistic projects, then using Foley makes more sense.
Yeah, and a lot of times you'll need a mix of both. Omnisphere, I will recommend again for that route. Sound design that kind of bridges the gap between analog or acoustic and electronic. Omnisphere is great at that for synths and for like sound effects too. Whooshes and magic noises and stuff. It's a fun one to play around with for that. Yeah.
And my last question.
Sure.
What are something that we can do on a daily basis that can improve our music or sound design skills?
Oh man, that is such a great question. The longer I am doing sound things, the more I think it's important to just like play around with these things every day. I want to say like whatever is the most fun for you is the most important thing to do every day, because I feel like if I were to say like, well, practicing your scales is the most important thing, like I don't know that advice is going to have very much longevity. But if I tell you like figure out what you like to do and commit to doing it every day and do it to get a little bit better at it every day, is going to serve you longer term. So combining that like passion and love kind of advice with the idea of deliberate practice. I don't know if you guys have like heard that term before. I remember I heard it from somebody smarter than me that was like, you can't just play the same thing over and over again. You have to figure out what's not good, or like where your skills are not up to par, and like focus on that. So balancing those two things, what's fun and how can you get better at doing that thing every day, and not just play around with it, but also play around with it. Sorry, that's like such a deep question.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. I have a couple more minutes if anybody has any other questions, but I would love to like stay in touch if people think of things later on. I'll put my email somewhere that makes sense for you guys if you want. Yeah, my Twitter handle is in there if you just want to like click links to the free stuff I was talking about. I just sent that out, and then if you want to just like ask me other questions you have, I will try to respond to them. Cool. Yeah, no, I am super happy to hang out with y'all and to hear from people in the future. I would be very sad if I didn't get to like, I don't know. I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, I'm so great, let me give back. But like, I want to, pass it forward. Yeah. So yeah, it was great to hang out with y'all tonight.
Just a comment. I just follow you on Twitter.
Cool. Thanks. Send me random stuff. Sure thing. Great to meet y'all. Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
So much.